Welcome back. In fourth grade, I had a map of the United States in my social studies book, and I would stare at that map and dream about doing a cross-country trip in an old Chevy. Well, I never thought that old Chevy would be as old as I am, but this year we're going to make that happen. I am going to be taking this old truck the 4,300 round-trip miles from here to California and back. I'll be taking you along with me, and hopefully everything goes as planned. But that plan starts today with getting this truck ready to make that trip. So there's going to be some upgrades, some maintenance, and a few things along the way that I probably haven't even thought about yet until I see it. So let's get started. And the first thing I want to show you is this. So the part that I got first for this trip is this cool old camper top. This is going to help me with securing luggage and cargo. I'm going to be taking the dog with me, so that's going to take up the back seat. But I found this really nice camper top that seems to fit the truck, both period and, well, just fitment, just great. I think this is a good start to this trip. So when I first started planning this trip, it was brought to my attention fairly early that I will be driving through some very hot states: Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona. And the question was asked, does the air conditioning work in that truck? And I went, well, no. So that is the first thing we're going to fix. I got new condenser, evaporator, new pump, brackets. It's amazing how hard it is to find brackets for a big block nowadays. The whole AC system will be brand new and hopefully work as well as intended. But it also got me thinking about other things: transmission oil cooler, power steering pump oil cooler, engine oil cooler. We want to make sure that everything stays well within operating limits so I don't break down in the middle of Death Valley, because that whole death part of the name. Anyways, we're going to get started with the AC system, and the first part of that is making sure that the AC pump brackets bolt to the head correctly, and that when you bolt the compressor to that, the belts line up. Once that is all known to be true, now we can start tearing apart things to start replacing plumbing. So let's get started with that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get this reservoir out of our way so we can bolt our bracket in. That's going to require draining it, which I'm going to use the Mighty Vac for. So let me get that out of the way. Okay, that should lessen the amount of fluid I'm going to dump all over the place. Now I'm going to need a screwdriver to take that clamp off and then fight to get this off. We should have clean access to all of this. All right. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, we should have decent access to put this bracket on. Now this bracket, I pre-installed it a little bit just to kind of see how everything would go, and trying to figure out where all this stuff bolts up to. I know that this bolts onto here, but I don't know where everything else bolts to. Actually, I wonder if it goes like this. Nope, no, definitely this way. But where that goes there, I feel like that should bolt somewhere too. We may have to look at the instructions for this one. So, this is supposed to bolt the head in 2 locations. There and there. Okay. And for that to have any chance of working, I'm going to have to pull the pump. So to pull the pump, I have 3 bolts I'm going to need to take out. These 2 and the one in the back, that'll get the pump out of the way and gain me access to this hole way back there. Let's go get wrenches. Hopefully, this will reach. It will. Let's see, can we get this wire out of the way? Well, that's helpful and yet worrisome at the same time. That bolt is loose. Am I able to get my ratchet end in there? I am. All right, note to self, tighten that up when you're done. Okay, so with that, we should be able to loosen that one. That's probably this giant wrench. There we go. Move that belt out of the way. As soon as taking this bolt out, we should be able to take this pump and just set it over onto the fender. Okay, so that is officially out of the way. And a good practice is any bolt you take out, put it back in so you don't have to hunt and figure out where all your bolts went. You don't have to put them all the way in, but put them in enough that they won't fall out, but everything will stay where you need it to be. And I am glad that everything is now covered in power steering fluid. That will make the rest of this just so much easier. I already have spare parts. Okay, so this bracket is going to bolt to that hole and that hole using these screws and a spacer. Now I am going to chase these holes. These seem too big for that hole. Let me go see if the kit that came with us came with another that size screw. And then I'll chase these to get all the 40 years worth of grime out of those holes. and then we'll bolt this together. So now that we know these will thread into those holes, we can go and put in the spacer, and we can put on the first bit of bracket. Our bolt, our spacer, our other bolt, and our other spacer. And let's tighten this down. Now, I do realize that I will quite possibly have to change where the reservoir was on this AC, or not AC pump, the power steering pump, because it could interfere with belts and where the pump is itself. So that's the first bit. This bolts onto one of the ears. This gives you your adjuster to tighten belts. So let's go look at what the next part of this bracket. I believe it has to attach to this bolt here. We'll see in a moment. Okay. So this bolt has to come out, and this goes in its place. And then that will align all of this with this here. So this is the back mounting, and this is the front. So let's start with getting that bolt out of here. Do I have a 9/16 socket? There. I feel a lot safer using a socket on this bolt than a wrench. These bolts have a nasty habit of breaking on you. That will ruin your day. All right, so the next part to go in is the adjuster. I'm going to put that in, but just snug it up because I want to get this bracket in the correct spot because I don't want this to become a coolant leak. Okay, so let's put this here. That goes through here. Thread into this hole here. Come on. Like I said, I just wanted this snug so that all this is lined up and I can tighten this down. Okay. And that is about where the pump will live. Hopefully it lines up with one of these two pulleys down here. Matter of fact, I think the next thing I'm going to do is dry fit the pump in there just to see if it lines up before I start bolting all this back on there. Kind of looking at it, it looks like it's going to line up with this, which is the original factory pulley for that. So let's see. Let's go get ourselves a pump. Okay, here is our pump of choice. It is a Sandin style 7-piston. I believe it is 150 cc per revolution, which is close to the R4 pump that originally was in here. A lot of research went into this because I wanted to get something that would work as well as the original, seeing how I can still get the original pump. I just can't get the brackets or the lines to connect it to anything. Matter of fact, the line set that I got for this is a do-it-yourself make your line. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But first we gotta make sure that this, when it bolts into that, lines up to something over here. All right, with that, let's figure this out. Thinking putting in these in the front first will be the easiest because it's going to be a lot of fumbling around. Yes. Okay, so we're going to have to undo what we did to redo what we did in a moment. So let's loosen this up. And this will give me the play needed to slide this in there. I'm not a fan of this wire placement, but also we are messing with all kinds of dark magic here. This is going to slide through here and into there. And then this will go into there. And then this will roll into here like that. This should go into that there. I don't know what it is with these wasps being very interested in all my vehicles. Okay. So you can see right off the bat, I'm going to want to change this bolt with the first one I put in, because this one is longer and that one just isn't quite long enough. Give me the bolt back. Yes. Okay, and then the bolt that tried to run away from me will go into here. And then the last bolt goes into this ear back here and into that. And this should be our belt tensioning, which there's plenty of that. And then looking at this, wow, that lines up with both pulleys. Nice. Unfortunately, I think the power steering pump's going to be in the way of that, but well, that's good. With this all roughed in and seemingly lining up with stuff, I think the best thing to do now would be to take this part here out, reinstall the power steering pump, and see where all of that is going to fall. Hopefully that reservoir will fall into this pocket, which would be super convenient, but if not, we will have to figure that one out. So let's get this out of our way, that back into our way, so we can put this back into the way, and we will be on our way. So let's reinstall this pump, which is going to require us to reattach the bracket that we took off, which would be this bolt and this bolt. So, all right, so our rag plug thing is it's opening up a whole host. It's just wicking. So let's take this big bolt, put it through this top hole, and that will go into that spot there. Oh, come on. There's just not enough room for everything that needs to go right here. You know what? Let's put this in first, and that should pull the pump out of my way. Bye-bye. Okay. Oh, now you just fall off. Oh, what's nice is this is a slotted hole. Been nice to know that a little bit ago, but we know it now. Okay, with that now in place, let's put the pump back in. We'll tighten it down because it is more or less going to be where it's at. Then we'll figure out what the next step is. So let's get that pump back in. All right, that's tight, but yeah, I want to loosen those at some point. But that is pretty much installed where it is going to end up. With the exception of adjustment. I hope that it coming off the water pump, going around this pulley, it has enough engagement onto the power steering pump, because that is also your brakes. So Hopefully that has enough engagement. It looks like it should. We should have, I don't know, maybe 90 degrees worth of engagement. We'll see. But that should work. All right. The next step will be taking out the radiator, which is going to involve draining fluids and everything. So let's do that next. All right, now with that roughed in, it is time to start pulling the radiator out so we can get the condenser put in, which is going to involve pulling the fan and getting rid of the alternator belt. That needed to happen anyways to be able to run a belt to the new pump. So let's get started with that. Get the alternator out of the way first. It's amazing. You take all the belts off of a pulley, and now it will start to spin. Okay, with that, I should be able to just snip these zip ties, get them out of the way. Of course, that one actually has a bolt in it. Looks like if I can get this spin this way, I'll have enough. There. Boy, that was tight. Take these two belts. Both of them are in fairly good condition. All right, set those over there. What do we have now? Now it looks like we need to drain the radiator. So let me go put my catch can underneath the drain plug and pull that. All right, take this and set it aside. We got ourselves a dirt dauber. All right. We are the bottom radiator hose away from being able to get this out of here. But let's getting caught up on everything. Oh. Well, that's not supposed to be there. But that gives us access to the transmission cooler. Make sure that that's still good. The engine cooler we're going to have to replace because the previous owner just hacksawed the lines off of it. So we'll have to replace that. But everything else seems to be still connected. Power steering cooler, transmission cooler. That still spins. We'll send 12 volts to it, see if it's electrically still good. But let's get the shop vac, clean that up. All right, now that we got the radiator out, everything cleaned up, I am going to remove the old engine oil cooler and make a little bit of room for the new one. But I'm not going to do it with this. I asked nicely, but there you go. All right, now we can start dry fitting everything in. So after a lot of messing around, a plan has been made. So took out the old engine oil cooler, got the new one. It's going to go in here. We are going to make a bracket that'll go across here. This will attach to that bracket. Then because new parts are smaller, this will go in here, and we will make a couple brackets that will mount this into its new spot, seeing how it is a couple inches shorter than the original. After that, looking at the radiator we took out, it was an absolute mess, so that has been replaced as well. So we got a new aluminum radiator to go in there. So that is the plan. Let's start with measuring and making the bracket for the engine oil cooler. So for our bracket, we are going to need that to be, let's just say 15 inches. Yeah, 15 inches should be good. And then we'll attach it to this mounting hole. We'll make a mounting hole here, put that in, put that cooler in, and use the zip ties that it comes with to tie it down to that. And that should hold it just fine for when we plumb it up later. Okay, so now that we have this bracket attached, we need to figure out where exactly we want this to be. So we'll have to drill a couple holes, and I'm thinking if we drill one hole there and one hole here, we should be able to pass through the zip ties and not interfere with where the pipes are. So let me go get a drill. So we should now be able to pass these through there. And then I need a little bit of space. So what I plan on doing is taking these and using these foam pads as spacers. With those in place, we can now figure out where we're going to have these. This on to lock it all into place. That gives us plenty of room back there for that. All right. Now let's put this into place. Now looking at this, our best bet is going to be maybe making little brackets here that will attach to this top to the core support. Just couple little brackets. Say 3 inches long. That'll allow us to attach this and attach to this. The rubber pieces will keep the bottoms in place. This rubber piece is not in its normal home, so we'll secure it to the frame another way, but with the rubber pieces in the bottom and then the couple brackets at the top. That should secure this into place and allow us to put in the new radiator. So with our makeshift brackets put into place, and put this there, put this up against there, and hopefully we don't hit anything over there. Oh yeah, that's not going anywhere. That's in there solid. All right, now is time for the radiator. Set this in there. Looks like everything is going to line up nicely. That will go there. That will go there. That will go on down there. That will go on up there. That looks like that should work out well. So, let me get this top piece back. Check and see how all of this fits. That looks like that should fit just fine. You know what? I am going to tweak it ever so slightly though, just to have it clamped down on the radiator a little bit better. Let me go do that. There you go. That is done well. Now we can start putting these lines back on. See if I can find a smaller clamp for that. That's a bit excessive. And if I remember correctly, the heater clamp I needed a new one for anyways because it broke being taken apart. Let me go see if I can get 2 new clamps. Okay. A long time ago, I bought a replacement tank. This seems like a fitting time to replace it. All right, with that, cooling's back together, transmission cooler's hooked back up. The AC condenser's not hooked up right now, but we'll catch that in a little bit. I'm starting to lose sunlight and weather is starting to move in, so I think I'm gonna call it a day for today, but we'll pick up tomorrow.